And since we know this microphone works, what do you have to say, smart guy?
Thank you all for showing up tonight. I am vastly appreciated and honored that you bothered to take any time to stop by and do this. This is, as I'm heading towards the end of this year, the 38th year that I've had the opportunity to teach in Linworth, and for the last 21 I got to double up on that and play the role of administrator. There are a couple of people who are here, at least, who would probably tell you I never was a good one. I'm thinking that's probably a good thing for the job that I had. It has been just an unbelievable honor to have the opportunity to have worked at Linworth for the last 21 years. It is one of those things that I had always hoped would happen. For those of you who have missed this boring part of the story, I did my student teaching here the first year that the place was open, and then for the next 17 years had the opportunity to work in Worthington, and off and on, whenever I thought that my life circumstances would allow it, was struggling to try to find a way to get back here. And finally, about 22 years ago, Barb Hill, who was the director at that time, came to me and said, "Wayne, how close are you to having your administrative certification?" And I said to her, "I'm as far away from that as I can possibly be. Why the hell would I want to do that to myself?" And her response was, "I'm leaving in a year and a half. Nobody out there wants to take my job, and it may be your last shot to get out there for a while." So I managed to get there, and they ended up hiring me for this job, and it's been one of the grand pleasures of my life to have the opportunity to work with the wonderful staff that's here, and to walk into this program, and as I continue to say, my claim to fame is I didn't screw it up at least too much. So there's that. There are several people that probably here at the end of my career I would like to point out and say, here are some people who had some major impacts, but most of you have listened to me far too long in the time that you've had to be around me anyway, so I'm going to try to keep that part of it relatively short.
Voice for nap time.
There was a corps of teachers up at old Kilbourne, the 9th grade building, that led by Tom Pollock and Jim Emmel and Don Hyatt, who kind of taught me that teaching is like one of those things you always have to reevaluate what it is that you're doing, and that's a lesson that stuck pretty well. There were a few administrators that I got to work under who taught me how to do some things. There were several administrators I worked under that taught me how not to do a lot of things, and I tried to learn from them too. In particular, whilst I was here, Gerald Prince, who was here for a while, I don't know if he's still here, Jim McGilligan, both served as my boss at times. For a while they were handing me off to anyone else that they could find, so that no one had to be my boss very long. But those two guys were probably my bosses for the longest, and managed to actually try to understand what goes on here at Linworth and allow us to do some of the things that we were able to do. I'm teaching a class with Danny Polis right now. He and I were discussing a little bit just right before class tonight the fact that when we sent about 10 kids out to do a 50-mile walk in Yellowstone in the winter, that's one of those things that one of my bosses kind of said, go do it. If they all come back, we'll say it was a good thing. If they didn't, we'll do damage control later. So there were some people in the district that allowed that to happen. There are two women that are associated with this program that I want to give a special thank you to that I could not probably have managed to do this job without. One of them, obviously, is Mel Childers, who for 20 years, yes, thunderous applause. Who for 20 of the 21 years that I was here functioned as secretary and everything else it is that she does here. And the year that she wasn't here, I just spent all of my time going, my God, where is she? So I was really happy when she came back. And Chris is, in following me here is going to have the opportunity to
see a
have
woman?
1 year. And then he gets to find somebody to replace her, which is a much more difficult job of finding somebody to replace me. The second person is that old retired grandmother person, wherever she is hiding right now. Debbie White, who used to be a teacher here and then made an incredibly bad decision and decided to marry me. And one of us had to leave, and she decided that that should be her. So I'm not saying that for the past 12 and a half years there's been any added pressure to me in my job that when your spouse gives up their dream job to go do something else for you to be in a position to do something. It's not like it's one of those things you go to work every day and go, well, we'll just see if it works. So she's given me a lot of support through the years, and there's that. And I just think that...
So I've got a couple people who'd like to say something, and then in a little while we're going to have Erica come up and play.